This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve, where we've got a very sleepy female leopard. And everybody, my name is Steve, and we are with a leopard called Tlamba, who's up here in the tree. And welcome on board your African safari. Hello everybody, good afternoon from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. This is Tlamba, a little 2.5-year-old female leopard. Well, she'll be 3 in November. And you might have seen her last night, I think, towards the end of the show. Trishala managed to catch up with her. And good afternoon everybody. It's a wonderful 19 degrees Celsius today, nice and balmy, but nice. My name is Steve, joined by Craig Zammit on camera, and we are very excited to have you with us. Now, we have some questions and comments you can send through, please, using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or throw them in on the YouTube chat stream, or on Twitch using the @FC. If there are any kids out there, please, parents, will you send through the questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We spent some time with Tlamba this morning. She was on the ground for the most part, and now she's looking super comfortable in this wonderful Tambuti tree. And we're going to be spending the afternoon with her and see what she gets up to.
How wonderful Tlamba is, the princess here at Djuma. She is absolutely stunning and quite a huntress. Now here we have Nyala. Nyala bull, isn't he just stunning? Really nice and shaggy, gorgeous horns, some beautiful spots. Just lovely. Well, my name is Trishala, and I've got BK on camera this awesome day out here on Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. And already we've had such wonderful animals. We've got leopard, we've got a Nyala, and I think I see some buffalo not too far away. In fact, I think the Nyala sees the buffalo too. Just wondering, where should I go? This Nyala would be looking for the last bits of greenery. In fact, maybe luckily for it, there'll be a lot of greenery around because we've had an epic rainy season last season. And there's still so much green around, and before we know it, we'll enter into our wet season again for this year. So this gorgeous browser is in a great spot for eating lovely leaves and a bit of grass.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Clive, and behind the camera today we have Marcel. So we're up in this little corner of the reserve, up in the mountains, well, to a certain spot in the mountains that we could actually get to. And I wanted to tell you about a few things that we've come across here. Firstly, myself and one or two others went out for a walk today, and for the first time in my life, found a Stone Age tool. Now this was the front part of a spear, apparently. So I didn't really know exactly what it was, but I sent a photo to someone, or actually a video, and they confirmed that it's from the Stone Age. So it could be anything from 5,000 years old to over 1 million years old, which is unlikely, but pretty amazing anyway. And I remember about a week ago, Steve had found a part of a pot, which I thought was also pretty amazing. So I thought I would share that with you this afternoon. Also, up in these rocks, this is where I'm sitting now, is part of the Lebombo Mountains. And Butterfly, you're asking if I've found dinosaur bones. Very close. No, not dinosaur bones, although I'm sure they are around. But there are a lot in this area. There are a lot of from the same age as dinosaurs, and they went extinct with the dinosaurs, something called an ammonite, which is a shell, can be anything from a small little shell this big to a meter in diameter. So big circle shell, and a little animal that would like kind of squirt a little jet of water to propel itself along. And we do have fossils of those around, which is just as cool. It's really amazing. So we thought we'd come up here and show you a bit of this for now. But for now, we'll let you carry on with your afternoon safari.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is fantastic having you with us again on this beautiful afternoon at Swalo Kalahari. It's great that you can join us on these safaris. I've got some bad news. Those of you who know Gendre is no more. He's left us. No, I was actually hoping it'd come, but we've got another amazing cameraman that a lot of you will know already. His name's Davy. There we go, Davy's waving there. So Davy, and my name's Dylan, and I'm really glad that you're out here this afternoon. Today we're doing another, and please bear with me, I'm still so excited about this. I think we're going to be getting a sighting this afternoon of the shell ducks. So we've been waiting, we've built this blind a couple of days ago. We've got the nest that Davy will get in the camera there. And there's our little blind, you see. So all it is, it's literally just a hollow in the ground, and then we just pack branches on the front, just to kind of screen ourselves. It's really simple. There's nothing fancy about it, but it acts just to break up our outline. And the fact, I've seen that duck coming and going a couple of times already, so it's totally unaware that we're here, and that's exactly what we want. So please bear with us, and hopefully this afternoon is the afternoon that we get a good sighting.
Well, how awesome, Dylan, you've done such magical work over that side. Now, we are here with our beautiful Tlalamba still. She's high up in the tree. She must be 4 meters, close 5 meters up there. Wonderful Tambuti tree down here in the river drainage. There's a prime leopard habitat. And you can't see it very clearly from where we're positioned, but sort of behind her in the thickets of the tree, she's got a little 1-year-old or a yearling impala. Can't really see it there. If you are a bit squeamish about these sort of things, everybody, there's a meat in a tree. Leopards are experts at caching their food so that they're able to eat at their leisure. Even a yearling impala is a little bit too much for a leopard to eat in one go. And by doing so, they're able to keep it away from scavenging hyenas. And being as high as it is here, even a very adventurous lion would struggle to climb up there. Hello, Minamu. You want to know if I know where they were named leopard? Well, in the genus Panthera leo is for the lion, and Panthera pardus is the leopardus. So maybe leopard comes from pardus, combined with leopardus. I'm wondering, I don't know, probably the first people who saw a leopard thought it's similar to lion, but it's not. It's a leopardus. So, very good question. I don't know the exact origin of it, but always very compelling. So, we're going to be spending some time with Tlalamba. She might start feeding in a little while. We'll see if she moves around. Right now, she's very chilled, quite a full belly, doing a very classic Sabi Sands leopard posture that people come all over the world to see. So we might try and reposition, get you another look at her face, and then we'll be right back with you. Hello everybody. We are with the beautiful Tlalamba, as you know, in a trowry position. Craig, you happy with that? Try to get you a look at her face. Mike, I'm just going to come here so we can see. Okay. Let's try and move up. Hello everybody, how are you doing? Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, hello beautiful Tlalamba. Let's just get you in a nice position. She's a little bit more alert than when we got here. I think she's getting to that stage where she might actually move to have a meal. But like a minute and a half or so to get you in that position, so perfect. But we're going to send you to Trish in a moment. Craigie, how's that? I don't actually want to get underneath.
We have found the buffalo, and they are trying to hide their faces from us. It's quite a huge herd. You can see lots of individuals around, and it's awesome to see buffalo on the property because this is a major food source for our lions. That's apart from the fact that they're a great big creature and one of our big five. When you go on safari, that's what you want to see. And now you have a live safari, your very own, happening right now across different locations in South Africa, which means that you get to see all of the big five. Yulia, that is an excellent question, and like Yulia, you all can ask questions using the hashtag WildEarth. Yulia would like to know how a domestic buffalo different from wild buffalo. So this is a Cape buffalo or African buffalo. Domestic buffalo, or the only type of buffalo that's ever been domesticated, water buffalo, and they're found in Asia. And these buffalo have not a great temperament, shall we say, and have never been domesticated. If you're thinking about cattle as well, cattle, or what we now have as cattle, was domesticated from wild ox about 10,500 years ago, and they're not actually related or closely related to the buffalo. They have shared a common ancestor, but they're not closely related, even though they may look very, very similar and sound very, very similar. The family is called Bovidae. That's why you may see bovine around on food labels and things like that, but they've only shared a common ancestor in the distant past. So they're not related to the cattle that we know and love now.
No, they are not related to buffalo at all. These are Felidae, Bovidae, Felidae. And we're not going to show you at the moment because it's a very awkward shot behind us, everybody. But her intentions are on a hyena or two that are just lurking in the bushes behind us. This morning she chased a hyena out the way and charged up this tree to defend her kill again. Not that a hyena is going to really get up there, but they follow her all the time. She's really proven to be an exceptional hunter for such a youngster. Her mom has definitely passed on some good genetics. Magic Dragon. It's very close, actually. I mean, she's been territorially marking. She's been doing some awkward calling. But close to 3 or so, after 3, generally the normal time for females to mate. But it is hard for us who've known her since a cub to get over that stage like a defensive parent. She is all grown up now. But it'll be interesting to see what happens and who is in the area at the time. She's hanging out in an area that Mawati is spending a lot of time in. Her father Tingana has been moving in and out. It's not uncommon for that to happen. Might seem quite ghastly to most of you. But right now, she's got none of that on her mind. Now it's digestion and rest. She's going to be playing this game with us all day as we move. She moves her face, and as we move, she moves her face again. But this is a live show, and that's just what happens.
Welcome. We are sitting at another dam that's called Indlovu Dam or Elephant Dam, and we are waiting patiently. We saw a herd of elephants coming down to the water earlier, and we're hoping that they're going to arrive soon. We have just decided to sit here and wait for them as well. My name is Michael Anderson. Behind the camera is Gert, and we are here at Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy. And yes, we are just waiting here. We saw a big herd of elephant bulls, actually a number of males, including the very big bull that we've been seeing the last few days, who's been named Kumo. And so we're just waiting here patiently. In fact, I can see them now just emerging from the edge of the trees. Wonderful, just in time. Perfect. So they've spent a whole day, dusty, hot day. It's been very windy and dry and sunny, and they've spent the day feeding, and now they're on their way down to come and drink. And this could get quite interesting. There's a little bit of mud. They might start to wallow as well. So I'm very excited to see what they do. It'll still take a few minutes, so we'll just wait here patiently.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are currently live from and beyond Ngala, and we have got a vulture on the ground over here, and it's hobbling across the sand. And there's only one reason why it would be doing this. This morning we had a nice big pride of lions that we are at the moment, actually, and what he's doing is looking for pieces of dung and scat that these lions have dropped behind, and the vulture will swoop down in, make a quick little meal of it, and then continue on with its day. My name is Eric, and behind camera as always is Owen. And yeah, this afternoon, we decided to come and just to make sure that these lions hadn't moved, and so we decided to just quickly swing past here. It doesn't seem like there is going to be too much activity, but at least we know where they are. So if we want to come back here a little bit later on to see them slightly more active, we might just do that. So we at least have got some sort of life with this. One of the sub-adults with its head up looking straight towards us, but you can see it's looking quite uncomfortable. It's panting quite heavily. It's got its eyes closed, and just behind it, if you just look at that cat pile that's going on, there are about 10 lions, maybe about 9 lions that are scattered around that one clump of shade. And that might just be one of the smallest ones, and it wasn't able to squeeze in next to the rest. So at least we know these lions are here. It doesn't look like they're moving anywhere, which might mean a little bit later on we can come back here and see if there's a little bit more activity.
So we have that big herd or big group of male elephants now arriving at Indlovu Dam right here next to our eco training camp. And it is all males, amazingly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 13 male elephants all walking together towards the water, which is fantastic. And there, just on the left of your screen now, you can see our very big bull. In fact, no, that's not. That is one we've I think that's a different male elephant. That's not Kumo. That's one we saw earlier who actually was walking around with a stick on top of his head. We've called him the Steg because of that. A very, very awesome, massive elephant bull. Very calm as well. All these big elephant bulls. Kumo is off to his left, another massive bull. In fact, just a little bit larger even. But you can see they're all making their way through this mud to get into the water itself, because they don't want the muddy water. They want the water that's as clean as possible. So they're walking right past this shallow section towards the deeper side. David, these elephants do look Jurassic. It's amazing. They're such prehistoric looking creatures. Massive bodies, thick skins, and nothing else really looks like them apart from other elephants. So it really are incredibly unique and prehistoric looking animals. I mean, all the animals with the thick grey skin, including the rhinos, they all look very, very prehistoric. Now you can see them sucking up that water. Watch them carefully with those trunks. You'll see how they just tap the water slightly to try and move away any sticks or leaves or dirt that might be at the surface before they start drinking deeply. They're not drinking through the trunk. They just suck the water up into the trunk and spray it into their mouth. Oh, it looks so good. Imagine eating all those dry sticks. You can see the vegetation behind them is very, very dry. Imagine eating that all day and then being able to have something to drink. It'd be super great. It's like eating cornflakes all day. Beautiful. Wonderful, everyone. So we are still with these elephants, as you can see, and you can see all these other elephants have now moved to the deeper side of the dam, where the water is a little slightly bit deeper and less muddy, and they're all drinking there. I don't want to move forward anymore in case we disturb them, because it is a bit windy and there's a big group of them. We'll stay right here. You can see them all enjoying that, and often what they do is they clamber along the edge of the water towards where we are right now. And when they do that, we'll stay very still, and we might get lucky enough for them to walk right past our vehicle, which is spectacular. It's super, super great to see these elephants still coming to our dam every day. We wondered, for a short time, they didn't really come anymore, and we wondered why they weren't coming anymore. Thought maybe it was too muddy, but it seems like it's still a massive draw. We're so fortunate, actually, to have this dam here, because there's no other water around this whole area of the Greater Kruger Park for many kilometers around, so these elephants flock here every day. Spectacular for our students. They really get a up close and personal view of elephant behavior.
Thanks, Mike. Well, elephants are really that special animal that's doing something most of the day. Leopards and lions are fantastic animals to spend time with, but a lot of the time, this is what they're up to. Oh, she might move. You can see her belly's quite full. She's actually eaten a lot more than she had this morning. We had her this morning. She hadn't eaten anything. Well, not much at all. And then towards the end of our show, she started eating, and it looks like she's got a really, really full belly there right now. And lying on a very comfortable branch. You'd think it juts in quite nicely. But they're experts at sleeping in tall trees, full bellies or no. Hello everybody and welcome back to Djuma. We have repositioned to try and get you another view of this cat, and as I said before, she's going to keep moving her head and try to get comfortable on that branch. This morning she'd eaten a little bit of her kill when we got here. Isn't that just cute, eh? And then towards the end of the drive she started actually eating. Oh, there we go. She needs a little pillow. started eating. So now, as Craig shows you can actually see how bloated that belly is. And really difficult to try and get comfortable in a tree like this. Stitch, I've never seen a pale leopard. I know some people have been looking for the black leopards up in the Masai Mara, and some people I know have been successful in getting them. Those are very dark leopards. I've never seen a pale one. But there's reports of a strawberry leopard up in the mountains from here, over the pass. Oh, there she is. Oh, isn't she cute? So the only leopards I've ever seen are pretty much the same sort of colour as this. They do vary slightly in the golden sort of white, black variation. Bearing in mind, all of them are very unique in their spot pattern and design. But I've only ever seen leopards of this coloration. And this is one of the prettiest around. I probably am saying that out of a bit of bias as well, because I've known Tlalamba since she was a couple of months old. Oh, Seka, she is so beautiful. And as far as I know, Seka almost means beautiful as well. In Shangaan, Saseka means a beautiful one. So I wonder if that's what it means as well for you.
Yeah. So what an interesting conversation about the shades of leopards, and you can actually check it up on the internet. But there's actually people refer to them as strawberry leopards, and they occur in an area in South Africa called Lydenburg, or in the mountains around there, and they've got apparently like a slight weird reddish pinkish tinge to them. I've never seen one, but strawberry leopards, there's something interesting. That'll be on my bucket list. But just to give you some idea, I've just done a little sketch here, but this will give you an idea of what we're looking at here. I'm going to try to put it in the shade. This is another beautiful piece of artwork here. So we're sitting over here. So imagine we're sitting way out here. We're looking back towards the nest over there. Okay, so when you're looking in there, that's a little mound of sand that you'll see in the front there. And there's the bushes. So that entrance is just below the mound of sand. That's why we're not from where we're sitting. You can't see the hole. So when we talk about the burrow is just below this mound of sand that we're looking at from the side. And then that tunnel, difficult to say how long it is. It could be 2, 3, sometimes even longer, 4, 5 meters. They have gone back to like 9 meters. What are you laughing at, Davy?
Yeah, this drawing is beautiful.
And that is Shelly, the shell duck. And I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 eggs inside there. I've no idea. But they can lay up to 16 eggs, 15 or 16 eggs. How crazy is that? So Jackson Corsi has asked, what kind of fish do these ducks eat? So great question. These ducks actually don't eat fish at all. You do get a lot of your water birds that will eat fish. Things like cormorants, darters, those kind of things. These guys are only plant eaters. They will actually also eat insects and little crustaceans, so these little things that live in water, but normally they're foraging on plants and often quite far away from waters. So these guys, like Egyptian geese, can fly 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers away from the body of water to actually go feed. So they'll graze on grass or actually eat plants like algae in and around the water bodies that they're staying at.
So our elephants are finished drinking for the most part and are now doing a little bit of socializing, a lot of little pushing and shoving between the younger members. The older elephants have already sorted out their status, so they don't need to do much pushing and shoving. They might do if they want to fight over mating rights, but you see, the smaller elephants move quickly out the way of the larger ones. They know they're much more powerful, so they need to get out the way. And this is all males. It's quite unusual to see such a large group of males. And again, it's because of this water. They find each other at the water and they start to follow each other, and it's very, very beautiful. Remember, they need to stick together to engage low range. 4x4 necessary to get up that steep hill. We saw an elephant the other day. He had all 4 of his legs together and he was stuck. Didn't know what to do. Richard, is it I think Richard is asking what elephants use their tusks for. Oh, Bridget, sorry. Bridget wants to know what elephants use their tusks for. A lot of things, Bridget. They use their tusks to push each other and shove each other and have little battles to sort out their hierarchy. They use them for defense when the mothers need to defend their youngsters from things like lions or even other elephants. They use them as tools more often than anything else to take the bark off these trees, or sometimes dig up roots, crack branches, all sorts of different things. So they are multi-functional tools. It's like having a multi-tool on your belt, except they've got it strapped to their face, and they do anything with it. We've been watching a lot of elephants, Gert and I, debarking the trees, where they stick their tusk under the bark, and they peel off the bark of the tree, and underneath there's this nutritious substance that we call cambium, which is just basically sugar and water together in a mulchy soft tissue, and they eat that. And they've been doing that to a lot of the trees at the moment because there isn't a lot of green stuff. I know here we see a few green trees, but this is around the waterhole. Elsewhere there's almost none. So yeah, elephants use their tusks for a lot of things. And some elephants have really big tusks. Some elephants have much smaller tusks. It's all genetic. It all depends on who was their mother and father. It's really wonderful to see all these elephants just trampling along, doing their thing, doing their elephant thing. Gorgeous.
So do I. I love watching elephants. Always entertaining, much like these guys. Here we have a giraffe with the two ossicones on the head, and a visitor, a red-billed oxpecker, cleaning about, looking for any ticks that it can get its beak on. Now, it's not actually the ticks that they like, it's the blood inside, and you'll often find them around wounds of animals as well. Now, here's a good look at his ossicones, and you can see that the ossicones are actually bald at the top. That's a good way to determine male and female. Females have slightly smaller, thinner ossicones, and they're quite fluffy at the tops. And males get bald from the constant rubbing. Hi, Sia. You'd like to know what is the most ideal time to go on a game drive to see all of the animals. It depends. In the summer, the bush is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful, but it's very thick and bushy, so you can't actually see very far. In fact, this giraffe I wouldn't be able to see if it was our summer, where there's lots of rainfall. So there's lots of animals around, and the bush is beautiful, but you may not actually be able to spot them. But in winter, the bush is quite open. Like at the moment, the bush is quite open. And exactly, thanks so much, BK. And that means that you can spot more animals, and animals' behavior a little bit more predictable. That's just our game drive radio going off, so we can all keep in contact with sightings. So I would say early morning in winter is a good time. Early morning means predators may be around, they'd be on the move, they'd be easier to find. And winter, because water sources are a hub. Linda, you say oxpecker photobomb. Oxpeckers don't work in any other way except to photobomb. Very curious looking birds. So Sia, early morning in winter, that's a good time for game drive, even though it may be quite chilly. Gorgeous. I think I'm going to head off to the hyena den and have a look there. Hopefully they'll be around. Okay, so I did check out the den as soon as we went out, but nobody was around. I want to check again just because I'm close by. And while I go about doing that, I'm going to send you over to Pridelands. In the meantime, hopefully the hyenas will be at the den.
So, our elephants have mostly walked on the other side of the earthen wall of this dam. But some of them are still up at the top there, just scratching. I actually thought this elephant was going to push down this thin leadwood tree. It's now scratching itself on it. But before that, it was actually pushing with its trunk, its nose. And I thought it was going to snap this tree, which would have been very sad because it's a leadwood tree, which is my absolute favorite, and they take such a long time to grow. That tree would have been, living a very short life for such a long-lived tree, which is very sad. But you can see this elephant's much larger than the one who's going to push him right out the way. Keep moving. Everything with elephants is to do with their power, their size, and this younger elephant will have to wait his chance to be the biggest and be able to get the right of way. Just wondering where our last... I think he's already gone down. There's one elephant here that we've come to call Ivar, because he's got one leg, which doesn't work as well as the rest. And he's usually at the back of the group, but he seems to be forging ahead these days, which is super great. I haven't seen him. I think he's already gone up ahead of the rest of them, which is so nice. It's nice to see him, even though he's got one leg which doesn't work so well as the rest. He's still able to lead the pack. Still a young elephant, though. He'll grow a lot larger. This elephant looks like he's a bit confused. What do I do now? Everyone's gone. Oh, no, time to go. Goodbye, elephant. See you soon. Well, they're walking down a drainage line now, a drainage line which most likely heads towards a nice green area. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come out of an ad break. So we're going to hold off speaking for a little while and just see what happens. Here at the waterhole, this lilac-breasted roller has chased off all the elephants. It hasn't really. It just came and landed nearby to where all the elephants were. So this lilac-breasted roller, which is one of the most beautiful birds in the whole of southern Africa, has probably been hoping to catch insects that those elephants disturbed as they walked through the grasses, which is fantastic. It's a wonderful thing that a lot of birds do. Very, very clever behavior. As the large animals disturb stuff, they catch the insects that they disturb. Normally this lilac-breasted roller sits up in these leadwood trees that are above us, waiting for anything to move about. But now it might follow these elephants a short while. It's unusual to see it on the ground, maybe because it's a bit windy and very cold. The bird is sitting down there now, hoping to stay nice and warm. It looks like it did eat something. You see how it's smacking its lips together, or its bill. Oh, there's a squirrel. Hello. You coming to join the lilac-breasted? Oh, everyone's afraid. They gave each other a fright, I think. That was quite funny. It's not common that you see those two different animals together. It is quite interesting. So yes, the elephants did move into a drainage line, and they're probably going to walk down to where there's greener vegetation to feed off now that they've had a nice drink. But we're going to stay around here and just see what else might come to the waterhole over the next few minutes.
So something is really fascinating me about what we're seeing here and what is written in the literature. So apparently the male will frequently stand guard around the nest. He never goes down the burrow. No one's ever seen the males going down the burrow. So the assumption is the female does all the nest preparation, because she's not building the tunnel. She's using existing tunnels. And I mentioned yesterday, this is only the second time, well, certainly of the recorded ones in the bird books, that it's been seen down a spring hare burrow, which is a very small, that burrow. If you're sitting at home, you can work out it's about 15 centimeters wide by about 25 centimeters high. Amanda's just asked, do we know how many eggs there are? I've absolutely no idea. It could be 1, it could be 15, it could be 16. There's quite a big variation in egg numbers. The other thing here, speaking of the eggs, is it's not even certain what the incubation period is on these eggs. What is known is that they'll lay the eggs, and this is from captive birds. They'll lay the eggs a number of days apart, and they assume they start incubating them close to or when the last one's been laid. And the reason for that is it actually gets them all to hatch at the same time, simultaneously, because they can't afford, if you look at a species like a barn owl. So a barn owl will lay 5, 6, 7 eggs, but each one will be a couple of days apart. And the cool thing there with barn owls, if you're ever lucky enough to see a barn owl nest, some people call them screech owls. If you got a nest where there's chicks, you'll get a little chick that's just hatched, and then you get ones that are almost fledged already. So you get the staggered hatching. These birds don't. They need these little ones to hatch at the same time because they need to get them down to the water at the same time, and that's 800 meters away from here.
Well, thanks, Dylan. You are back all the way over in Djuma, where our little princess has repositioned. There we go. She's really trying to sort out that belly of hers there, everybody. You can see how she's sitting like a real lady. Her bottom on the branch, her legs down, and a very round belly with her face now, using the tambuti as a pillow. How gorgeous. Lauren, you're 100% right there. Tlalamba has had a very hard week. We haven't seen her in a few days, but the life of a leopard is one of movement, sleep, and a bit of feeding. So they really don't have the hardest of lives, but they do make it look like they have had a really difficult time. But it is Friday out there for many of you. Our life continues as normal here, but Fridays herald the weekend. I do wish all of you a wonderful weekend as it comes. Tlalamba, she's going to be enjoying her nice Friday afternoon. She's secured some food. The water's not too far away. She's only got about 1 kilometre to walk there and back. So she's really, really in the pound seats. The only thing that is a concern for her is the approach or the appearance of a male leopard that could come and snatch her prize from her. Other than that, she is really, really winning this weekend, so well prepared for a nice sort of sit-down weekend with food in abundance.
We decided to leave those lions. They basically were not moving, they were flat, lying in the shade, so we might decide to go there a little bit later. And because it started to warm up, we thought it would be quite a good idea to come into this water hole just to see if there's been any sign of life around. We can hear some elephants in the distance, and we're just deciding whether or not they're either coming towards the water hole or if they perhaps might have already had a drink and are on their way back to feeding. And so the only sign of life that we do have are those 3 hippos that are right in the middle of this water hole. You can see them there right in the center of frame. And quite like those lions, also at this time of day, not really going to be doing too much. But they're resting in the water. You can see, I think it's actually 4 hippos. No, it's 3. Procedure, this waterhole is really beautiful, and it's one of those waterholes that even if there's not too many animals around, you can still sit and watch and still be entertained. And usually if there's no mammals around, if you look in and amongst the trees and in the shoreline, you're bound to find some sort of bird, which I'm searching for at the moment. And there's quite a few doves, but they're quite far away. I don't know if we'll be able to see them too nicely. See if we can find something slightly better than a dove. TaylorMade, male hippos are territorial. And so one male will essentially have this waterhole as its territory. And the way that a male marks its territory is by using little posts around the waterhole, and it walks out of the water and it sprays its dung with its tail to flick it around a little bit more. And this will be his territory. The females will come in towards this waterhole, and they're not territorial. So when the females are here, the male will protect them as his own, but he doesn't force them to leave, or doesn't force them to stay. They'll leave at any stage. So, I mean, males are territorial, but females don't have any territories.
Thanks, Eric. Well, we don't want to talk too loudly in case we wake up our sleeping cat. How she is comfortable like that is beyond me. But I suppose when you're used to comfortable beds and feather pillows, you get a bit lazy. Leopards are used to sleeping on the ground or in trees, and, well, a leopard feels very safe in the tree. Very, very safe indeed. It's common to find them in trees in summer as well, because of the wind up there is a little bit cooler than the ground. Unlike cheetahs sleep on the ground. They're always very, very alert. They don't know who's trying to sneak up on them. Leopards can go in the tree and they can almost be certain of their safety, although animals like male leopards can arrive out of nowhere. But we're going to be staying right here, everybody, and hopefully when you come back she might have woken up and go and have some more to eat. Very good. Let's quickly send you over to Dylan and his shell ducks.
I can't believe what just happened now. I cannot believe it. As we went into the ad break, this shell duck came flying in, low level, landed, and went down the nest chamber. I'm absolutely stunned. That duck timed that one perfectly. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that this just happened. I would like to say I'm ecstatic, but I'm actually not. Oh my goodness. So, okay, I don't even know what to say here. So now we know for a fact now she's gone down the nest. I was hoping she was actually already in the nest and that she would come out, fly down to the dam, go feed, and then come back. But now we know she was actually out feeding somewhere, so now she's come back, gone down the nest. So, anyway, let's see, maybe it'll pop out a little bit later in the day, but we'll just bite the bullet and see what happens.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry, you might hear the sound of a vehicle. We've got someone joining us at the sighting. Others like to come and see what's going on with our cats. Nothing has changed with Columba since you've been away. Don't think much is going to change too much with that very full belly. We might get some feeding, but it's probably only going to happen in the next few hours. I think most of the action of her breakfast happened a while ago. Welcome back live, everybody. Djuma, the peaceful scenes, this female leopard. If you didn't catch her name earlier, her name is Tlalamba, which is supposed to mean the playful one. But as we all know, with a full belly, our need to be playful, or our ability to be playful, is not as great. Joy, that's a good question. Leopard densities information research is being done all over the place. One thing about the Sabi Sands is there's got an enormous amount of guides moving around, and there's a lot of citizen science, you could call it, with regards to identifying the leopards. So the leopard population and densities here are very well known. In other areas of the Kruger National Park, there's not as high intensity movement of people and tracking, and people don't know how many leopards are there without doing actual surveys with regards to camera traps. Here in the Sabi Sands, probably since the 1960s, 70s, there's records of leopards. People have kept a very close eye on them. So it's not necessarily that the density is higher than other places, just the surveillance is very, very big.
So those elephants that we heard a bit earlier on, I think, are actually moving away from the waterhole. And there's a couple of them that don't seem particularly relaxed, especially that one that's moving across the road. When we first arrived, she turned around and she was looking at us and almost sizing us up. As soon as we stopped and showed her that we weren't a threat, she started to relax. But this is probably the best place for us to stay at the moment, because it seems like the rest of the herd might be crossing. And so we'll see one of the adults popping out of the road just now. And then there seems like there are a few youngsters. There we go. See, and that one too, also just a head up a little bit, looking down the road towards us. And it does seem like they might be in a hurry, because here comes one of the youngsters. Very cool. Looks like a young male. So I saw 2 adult elephants carrying off branches, which means that they weren't stopping to feed. They were literally breaking off a branch to carry on going. Yeah. And that's quite a good question. I mean, these elephants will probably start giving birth when they're around 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere around there. And they can live until about 60. And so they will give birth every 4 to 5 years. So that is probably close to maybe 6 or 7 elephant youngsters in their lifetime. I think that's the end of the herd. So let's move forward, see if we can catch them disappearing into the bushes. I'm sure if anyone's ever been to the Kruger or anywhere into the bush and they've watched elephants, one of the most fascinating things is how quickly they can disappear and make themselves vanish into the bush. And I literally can't see a single one. Okay, there we go. We actually can see them. Okay, so as we stop over here, it does look like they're going to disappear into the bushes. I'm not sure we'll see them again.
Thanks, Eric. It's always amazing how a herd of elephants can just vanish into the thickets. Now, you can imagine if a giant like that can disappear, how difficult it is to find a leopard if it disappears into the bush. But we do try. We spend a lot of time looking at their tracks, but when they've got a kill like this, it makes life a lot easier. Leopards will obviously hoist these kills and spend 2, 3, 4 days, depending on the size of the animal. And then their tracks go in and out as they have to go and drink. So that is often the best way to find them. Lenny, well, we're really happy and excited you've been on board, and we're very excited that you're learning so much. Keep watching the show. It has been a wonderful afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed all the wildlife from our various locations. Don't forget, SABC viewers, that you can continue watching. If you jump over onto the YouTube, look for Wild Earth. We'll be there for the rest of the afternoon, or for another 2 hours at least. So from all of us here, we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at the same time in the same place. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for your questions and comments. Till then, good day and goodbye. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you've been enjoying the show so far this afternoon. Far more than this young impala male has been. Tlalamba's had a fantastic time. She's moved about 1/2 meter in this entire time, but I've no doubt she's been galloping in her dreams all over the place. Wonderful scenes here in a magical Tambuti tree in the drainage line. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Steve and I'm joined by Batman Craig Zammit on camera. It's always very excited to have you with us. And if you have any questions, comments, feel free to send them through to us using the hashtag WildEarth, YouTube chat stream, or if your preferred network platform is Twitch, send through using the all-important @FC. Kids' questions are obviously still welcome throughout the next 2 hours. Kids' questions at wildearth.tv. I'm going to try and get a few on camera. Craig, can you get that roller over there at 11? He's in the bottom of that leadwood on that low branch. There's been 2 rollers having an absolute field day around here. Don't know what's been going on with them. Lilac-breasted rollers. Most photographed bird in the Kruger. Unfortunately, the light's not so good. The light was beautiful a moment ago, but they've been fighting. Don't know what has been going on, but there might be a little bloom of insects around there. They've taken a fancy to. Very common bird. If you come to the Kruger, you're almost guaranteed to see one of them. And they sit so nicely on open, exposed branches like that. Very easy to photograph. Those of you who don't know me very well, I love to bird in sightings when cats are being a bit lazy. But Tlalamba is in a beautiful position, so if you want to continue to film her, Craigie, you're most welcome. That light has actually started to just come through, eh? Sophie, not at all. The coloration, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with confusion. If anything, it's quite confusing to understand why it is so colourful, because both male and female are pretty like that and beautiful. Both of them have got the most unbelievable colours, and hopefully we get it for you in the light again, and we'll get to show you shortly. But I've said this a few times on the show. He's coming down onto the ground. I don't know what insects they keep plunge diving for. And then back up again. I've said this there. I think that's going to be better lighting. There we go. Oh, he's gone again. He's being very naughty, this fellow. But I think there's been some bloom. Oh, there we go. There's the coloration. Got the... Come on, sir. Stop plunging. He's obviously missing each time. He's going to plunge, dive, land on something, pick it up, and then go to a perch. And if it needs to be beaten and tenderized, it'll do so. And then swallowed whole. Oh, wow. It's become a ground bird, the roller. Where's he gone? Now the two of them have been doing that for the last hour, landing on the ground, fighting each other, flying off. So one does beg the question, what is going on? If there wasn't a leopard in the sighting here, I'd probably go and have a look, see if there's any grasshoppers that have emerged. Something like that, something is happening with regards to an insect emergence. But this is the scene we are sitting with. How wonderful. Beautiful Tambuti trees in this drainage depression. Leopardess sleeping beautifully in the tree. You're going to move slightly. And we're going to stay with her and see if we can help her count some sheep.
So those elephants didn't stick around at all. They decided to keep missioning through the bushes. We lost them quite quickly. And so I think what we'll do for the next probably close to an hour or so is just bumble around the river looking for anything interesting that we might find, to see if we might be able to spot something cool before we start returning to those lines to see if they're a little bit more active. It's amazing. I mean, we also, yesterday afternoon when we were with the leopard, our leopard was in exactly the same tree. It was in a Tambuti tree, it was feeding off of impala, and it just seems like Djuma's got almost exactly the same thing that we had yesterday. Except, I think it's a female leopard at Djuma, where ours was a male. And so, I mean, we had a wonderful drive yesterday with ending off with those wild dogs. This morning we didn't have any sign of them, unfortunately, but we are back in the area where we saw them last. And if they decided to not move around too much today, they could still be in the area. And we're just basically checking all of the hot spots at the moment. So we're going from one open patch of ground to another, and basically just sticking around some herds of impala to see if those wild dogs aren't up and about at the moment. And it's super exciting to know that we have wild dogs on Ngala at the moment. We are in the process of trying to track them down and see if we might be able to find a wild dog den for the season. No luck yet, but we'll keep trying for sure.
I'm so happy for you. So glad you managed to see those wild dogs. I was thinking that today was a really wild doggy day with the overcast weather. I thought so. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishala, with BK on camera. And I'm going to be gone soon. I'm going to be Houdini and do a vanishing act. And I will be replaced with Raymond very, very soon. So I'm going to go and fetch him. And then we're going to do some investigation. Now, I wanted to pop through to the hyena den, but I thought, let's get Raymond, and then we'll go through, and hopefully they'll be around so that Raymond can enjoy them as much as we do. What do you think? I think so. There's been tracks for Tandy and Cub in that Simla hyena den area, so it's always a good spot to sit because you can listen and the car is off. So it's a good area to start with, and I think that's what we're gonna do. Alright, vanishing act, boom, there I go.
So no luck further on the duck coming out. Unfortunately, yeah, it just all happened so incredibly quickly, and even more so than the times that I've seen it before now. But that in itself, I know you didn't see it, but these things happen, and although I'm beating myself up inside here, but the really cool thing about that is it just shows how fantastically adapted these ducks are for this environment. There's no messing around at the nest site and like landing 20, 30, 40 meters away and like ambling in. They land there, get downstairs super fast. Annie has asked a great question that actually pertains not just to shell ducks, but pretty much any species, plant or animal or insect or anything. And the question is, what are the chances of these shell ducks raising any of these ducklings to adulthood? That's a very, very tough one. You can, what I said with the meerkats, like straight out there, you can work on a 50% mortality rate on those meerkat pups, as an example. And that could be a weaker one not getting enough food, it could be predation, anything like that. And same with these shell ducks. You think that they hatched underground, well, when they do hatch, they're underground now. If that's assuming they even get to hatch, you could get a honey badger going down this burrow and it'll take that adult and the chicks in a heartbeat. But let's be optimistic and say, well, okay, so they hatch. Then what? Then she's got to look after them for like a week or so, and then they've got to walk from here all the way down to the dam. That is 800 meters. These ducklings are probably going to stand, if you take where your wrist joins your hand and where your fingers start, your first finger joint starts, that's how tall these ducklings are going to be. They're going to be little things like that on an average adult's hand. Okay, now they're going to walk these tiny little things, and both the parents will be in attendance, and it won't just be the female. So Sheldon and Shelley, they'll both be there, and then they're going to march these tiny little ducklings 800 meters. Now, to us it might not sound a lot, but imagine you're only that big. You've got to walk 800 meters. You stand from this branch, you only stand that high above the ground. You've got to get 800 meters through this predator-infested area. So Roshni has asked a very, very interesting question there in terms of the species ecology. Roshni has asked, will these shell ducks migrate in winter? And yes, they will. Not now. So when we say in winter, remember they've got these chicks now, so they can't. So the breeding season is actually quite long. And this is, although it starts now, this is quite early for this particular area. Further north, they'll actually be breeding already. So what they'll do is these birds molt every year. Okay, so they lose the primaries, they can't fly, and they undergo this entire molt. And when they're doing that, they actually need to be on large bodies of water. Because what they'll do is they'll just float on these bodies of water while they're molting. And obviously because they can feed in the water on algae and crustaceans, that kind of stuff, so there's no issues there. But they will migrate from here, from Swalu, to these large bodies of water. And the nearest one that I'm aware of, and it's not rivers, these are big dams, lakes. The nearest one that I'm aware of here is probably 300 kilometers away from here. So it's what we'd call like a local area migrant, as opposed to, these birds are not migrating over thousands of kilometers. But yeah, that's a really good question. And, I'd assume in terms of the winter thing, because we know that they can start in winter and they'll molt once a year. So I think that molt and the migration would be staggered as well. So we could get, in fact, I saw shell ducks. Davy, Jandra and I, we saw shell ducks this morning that aren't nesting. So we know for sure that there would also be a staggered interval in terms of the nesting and then probably the molting time as well. That was a long answer.
Thanks, Dylan. You really are trying hard that side. I wish you luck, sir. We're with Tlalamba, everybody, still. We just heard some nyalas going crazy north of us now. We went to go investigate, but it got a bit thick. The nyalas started calming down, and it's almost certain that there's a leopard or some other form of predator that was moving through. And she was alert to it. She had her head up. So we've just come back to be right in the position Because if another leopard arrives, things happen very, very quickly. Hello, Zara, 4 years old. Do you want to know who the leopard's best friend is? Well, Zara, when leopards are cubs, their brother or sister is their best friend, and then mom's tail is definitely their best friend for the first little while. And then, unfortunately, leopards become very solitary, and then they go off on their own. And they don't really have any friends there, although they would love to have some. Other leopards don't really like them very much. So hyenas love them. Hyenas follow them around everywhere, but I would not say that they are the leopard's best friend. Leopards don't like hyenas very much. So all they do is steal their food. I'm feeling that feeling, everybody, of some action to follow shortly. Tlalamba's looking in that direction. Sorry about my radio there. It might have been one of these two hyenas that moved off that caused those nyalas to alarm. It is very possible, because they alarmed for a few minutes and then they stopped. We went there, found them. They were all looking in a direction. We tried to find something, but it got quite thick. You never know. A big male leopard, Morwati, might be around, and he's not that easy to find. But if he smells what's going on here, he'll be up this tree in a second, and Tlalamba will be out. Now, oh, of course, Kiki, they know me personally. Kiki, it's very interesting you ask that, I mean, these animals, they go through what we call habituation. So some people might say certain things to add on to it, but they definitely get to a stage where they get relaxed to vehicles and to people. And there's talk that the leopards might individually recognize individual people, like Hosana, when he was around, I'm almost certain he knew who I was. But then I'm pretty sure everyone that I know who worked here thought the same thing. He was just so personable like that you felt like he just wanted to get to know you and hang out with you. But I also just think he was lonely sometimes and a bit of a sucker for attention. So he'd actually come and find you, be like, I'm over here. I know you're trying to track me down. Here I am, everybody. But it's hard to know if leopards know exactly who's who. But their sense of smell is incredible. And no doubt us as humans can smell individuals we know versus those we don't. We might not be able to articulate that. But you have a look at a baby, and a baby might not see dad or mum, but it smells them and it feels safe. So that is a very, very natural thing to do. But I think as we get older, we start to dumb down that sense of smell. But all these animals out here, their sense of smell is incredible. They know all sorts of things just by the cues in their nostrils. Hey, Tlalamba. You might be able to hear the go-away bird, or the African grey hornbill, or the ch-ch-ch. I can't do it very well, of the southern black tit. A little bit of birding while we sit here. Hello, Janice. Leopard cubs, lion cubs, they've got a natural instinct to catch things. I don't know if you've ever had a kitten at home. Kitten's not taught by anybody how to catch things. They just know how to do it. And so young cats have got that. They're born with an instinct to catch Just do that thing with your hand in front of a cat's face on the carpet or on the chair. It's going to catch your hand with its claws. Might not always know what to do once it catches it. That's something you find with leopards and lions, that often there's a learned behavior there of how to kill. Once the blood is in their nose, then that instinct of eating it takes over. But young cats often will learn how to catch. Mum will often sometimes bring back something still alive, and they'll keep catching it, but they won't necessarily know how to dispatch it initially. That takes a bit of practice. So that instinct to catch things is definitely ingrained into leopards and lion cubs. And they practice with themselves. They practice on their siblings. Lions have a lot more siblings, of course. And you'll see our lions, when they do their tackling, they do a lot of tackling on the hips, a lot of tackling around the ankles, and a lot of that works very well for the antelope species that they are looking to take down. Obviously, the pouncing and the stalking that happens all the time, probably a lot more than we even see, because we don't spend as much time with them at night as we would in the daytime. And leopard cubs do a lot of that with themselves too. So they play with each other, and they tackle and they pounce constantly. And Tlalamba learned by being away from Thandi for a day, and every time Thandi came back, Thandi was the object of attention and used to receive Tlalamba's full weight of energy. Her tail was the best thing ever, and Thandi used to get quite grumpy actually with the antics of this little one. And then slowly over time, the ability to catch becomes so well ingrained in them, and they get their first kill, they dispatch it, and then the life continues, because then they've got to learn how to hoist, they've got to learn how to pick their prey. Sometimes leopards can pick animals that are too big for them. Not only can they get injured, but they lose it very quickly. So being patient in the hunt is something that takes a little bit of practice. Young leopard Sosana was quite arrogant in that regard, or not should I say arrogant, he just used to charge in way earlier than he should have. And all that does is it leads to a very hungry belly. And so that patience is something that they need to practice, I suppose. You can't learn patience. You realize that when you watch lion cubs as well, they're constantly fighting and playing and tackling in the background, and they keep losing, or the adults keep losing the hunt. And so eventually, after enough play, the adults have given the cubs a lot of looks, and the cubs realize there's something working here that's preventing us from eating. And as soon as they stop playing and they start watching, then they start realizing that, hang on, if we hang back and just watch, we're going to get some food. And there's no better reward for an animal than a belly full. But everybody, we're going to be staying here with Tlalamba. We might reposition if need be. And who knows who is going to come and visit.
So we have come into one of the more dense habitats that we have along Ngala, and we're basically driving straight along the riverbed, and I thought it might be quite a nice time to see if we can spot any birds. Especially with it being nice and dense, we often see quite cool and interesting little birds that are sometimes a bit of a challenge for both Owen and I to show you. And since we've been driving, we haven't really heard or seen one. So my plan isn't going according to plan just yet. But we'll see. I mean, in these tall trees on the right hand side of us is often very, very good for raptors as well as vulture species that will come and rest and roost up on these big tall trees. But I don't see any of them this afternoon. This isn't a road that we've driven in the last day or two, so it's also quite good just to slow it down and just see if there's any tracks of perhaps a leopard that's been moving through this area, or any sort of interesting thing that we might be able to see. The Dallas, my favorite bird, has to be a small little owl. I'll show it to you quickly. It's called an African Scops owl. Let me just get my bird book out. And it's also a very tricky one to find. You often hear it, but you don't really see it too well. So it's a very, very small one. So this is it over here. Is that fine, Odie? This one here. And so it's probably a little bit bigger than this grass blade that I have in here. And it is very camouflaged. You can see, I mean, it's just perfectly mottled, and it blends into the bark of the tree. And during the daytime, it will go and sit right up against the branch and the trunk, and it will blend in completely well. And in the evening time, it starts to call, and it lets out this little, and you can count, and it will call pretty much on every single 5 seconds when it starts calling. So it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it just calls like that right throughout the night. And it's just one of my favorite little birds. All of these owls are probably right up there, but the best of the best for me is the African Scops owl, for sure. I think it's the call that got me to love the bird, and then the challenge of finding it is also really, really cool. But I always find it hard to choose a favorite because there's just so many interesting and colorful birds out there, or out here at least. Oh, here we go, here's some impala. Nice to see that there are a few impalas still alive and they're not all being eaten by leopards. And these impalas seem to be still in the dense bushes, and it could be for one of two reasons. They might still be feeling the heat, or they could be trying to move into the shelter to prevent their senses being obscured from the wind. It might be a combination of the two. And all of them, it looks like they've all got horns, and some really, really big ones are all together. And so this is probably the clearest indication that we've seen in the last while that we can pretty much say the rutting season is officially over. The last time I heard a male calling was on I think it was the 17th of July. So about a week ago. So all of these males, now that there's no females that are in estrus, they don't feel the need to compete for one another. And so I'm getting a question from Rebecca from Final Control, and she's very skeptical that I remember the last call. But this season I tried to remember the calls because I wanted to figure out exactly when the rutting season was over. And so I would go a couple of days without hearing it, and then I'd hear it, and then I'll just make a mental note of the date. And so now that they've got no reason to compete against one another, fighting for females, it's so much safer to come into a big group like this where they'll all basically be looking out for one another. Yeah, an oxpecker calling as it's moving from impala to impala. So that's another way that they might be able to get a warning sign. If that the oxpecker alarm calls, you might find the impalas will become quite a lot more alert. And it seems like they're starting to recover really well. Sometimes, especially at the end of the rutting season, these impala males look worse for wear. They haven't really been looking after themselves too well, but the coats of these impalas now look like they're getting a beautiful shine to them, and so it seems like they're looking like they're nice and healthy at the moment. Seems like there's still a little bit of rivalry. There's one or two of the younger males that are pushing each other around, but it seems more playful than anything serious. So stuck in bed, lions will hunt impalas, and particularly in the rutting season when these males are distracted. And so they're not really paying full attention to what's going on around them. It might make them a slightly easier target for lions. At this time of year, though, it might be slightly trickier because these impalas are very, very alert and they are super agile. And so, I mean, a lion, although it's very fast, it's only fast for a short distance. And, I mean, these impalas are quick off the mark. They've got a really, really good agility so they can move around. And at this time of year, they'll quite easily be able to outmaneuver and out-endure lions.
Well, everybody, someone who's got no short bursts of speed at the moment is our little princess, who is rolled up into a little ball on her side. And I'm really thinking to myself, how is she still holding on there? Feels like she's going to fall out. Sleeping in a tree, I think, also takes practice as well as hunting. In the beginning, you'll see a lot of times a leopardess in the early stages will bring her cub to the kills, and the cub has to learn how to eat in the tree, and that's something they struggle with. So they do definitely get meat early on, from 4 months, 3.5 even, 4 months, up until they leave. They are feeding on meat, and obviously it's safer to be in the tree, but some cubs just can't manage it in the tree, and they keep dropping it on the floor, and that leads to a bit of frustration for adults, especially if hyenas are hanging around. So that takes a bit of practice. If you were with us last week, we had Sibuyi's cub in the tree feeding, and that's just some good skills to be able to still hold the prey animal and still feed, because the more you drop it on the ground, the more you lose, and the more you have to hunt, the more energy you expend. So a well-treed kill, which is basically a kill that's been hoisted and jammed into the tree somehow, can look after a leopard's belly for days. And if that is the case, all she will have to do is go and have a little drink and a nap, and a drink and a nap. Very easy life. But they also will start practicing hoisting, which is always quite funny. I remember Tlalamba first trying to do the hoists. The animal will run up to the tree with the kill in its jaws, but sometimes it jumps. But when it jumps, it jumps with its feet on the animal that it's trying to pick up, and then the whole thing shoots back. Or it jumps up and the animal gets caught and it falls the other side. Takes a lot of practice to be able to hoist and do what Tlalamba's done here with this impala. An enormous amount of skill, which has come from an enormous amount of practice.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are in hyena den right over here in front. I believe that you did enjoy what Steve was explaining to you about the animal to put another animal on top of the tree. My name is Raymond. BK is my cameraman. So we are just only here for a short moment. That because we are only here, we can't find the hyena outside. So it's not necessary for us that we can stay over here for a long, because we don't know where's the mom. Maybe the mom, she's not around over here. If the cubs can come out, it will be a problem. So we'll be leaving as soon as possible. Yes, Kelly, as we have been met many times, we know exactly this is a really, really hyena den. So we know exactly where it's staying, and we know how many there are in this area. Yes, we're leaving the hyena den right over here. We're trying to see something else. We want to try to relocate a guy according to the boundary if we can manage to get something.
So I just started saying earlier about just number one, how cryptically camouflaged these nests are. If you think about what a great strategy this is, even in this environment where there's lots of trees that they could potentially nest in, like Egyptian geese do, or on top of these big sociable weaver nests. Egyptian geese here often nest on top of those, but this duck chooses to go underground. But think about that, how cool it is, with an absolute myriad of burrowing species here. Porcupines, aardvark, honey badgers burrow as well, spring hares, and we have got gazillions of spring hares. Unfortunately, we need to be out like late at night to see them. Normally, occasionally you get sightings in the day, but quite rare. But there's just so many holes available for these ducks to choose from. But the fun thing there is that once they've got a nest, I mean, we battled, and that was with a focused effort on trying to locate this bird's nest. It took me 3 weeks and not just 3 weeks of walking, it was 3 weeks of watching for these ducks. So Jeandre and I would drive up and down, we'd check where they're going, up and down and up, and then it was just walking. So these nests are incredibly cryptic, and because it's such an abundant resource, for a predator to actually locate that hole with the nest would be pretty challenging. But the other side of it is that, and that's what I was just mentioning briefly earlier, is these ducks, when they come in, that female doesn't land and amble around at leisure, kind of like rearranging the outside of the burrow and stuff. She lands close by to the nest, waddles straight over and goes down the hole. There's no wasting time, because she knows if she's spending a whole lot of time above ground here at the nest, it's really just bringing attention, drawing attention to exactly where that nest site is. And any number of predators could gain access to that. So she really wants to come in and get down as quickly as she possibly can.
Well, that shelduck nest sounds incredible. I've never seen a nest of one of those birds. And we have some birds here too, some beautiful little bee-eaters. They're called little bee-eaters. Bright green and yellow, really pretty colors. And what they're doing, we actually had quite a huge downpour just now, which was very strange, although it's been threatening all day. But that little bit of rain has probably brought out quite a few little insects, which is exactly what these bee-eaters are doing. They're sitting there, they're watching for movement of insects, and they're flying up quickly and catching and heading back down to their little perch. But they really are some of the most magnificent birds, just beautiful colors. So this is called a little bee-eater. Definitely one of the more common bee-eaters we get here, but can never tire of seeing them. Oh, they're so fast as well. I suppose they have to be to catch these fast-moving little insects that they feed on, but it's really incredible to watch them doing this. Lulubelle, I see you are agreeing with me. Stunning little birds. Look at that. Those colours just shine. Now I can't see what little insects they're catching. They must be very, very small. But it just shows you how good their eyesight is as well. To be able to see those movements of these tiny little insects and swoop around and catch them is pretty incredible. There's another one even further on. Sure, there's lots of them. You don't see them often sitting on the road like this. They often sit on the little trees around here, short little bushes, and they hunt insects from these bushes, but quite interesting to see them on the ground. Yeah, so from when we came to you earlier with that Stone Age spearhead, since that time we had to race home quickly and park under the cover because it was raining so much. And then we waited for about 10 or 15 minutes and then it stopped and we headed straight back out. So we haven't found any animals yet, but we are on a mission. Linda, that is very funny you ask that question, because this bird is pretty small, as you say. While I was talking about that spearhead earlier, we were up on the top of this mountain, and there was a tiny, tiny bird calling. I couldn't see it, but it's the smallest bird we get here in southern Africa, and it's called a grey penduline tit. Now, it is very, very small. If I remember right, it's, let me just check. I can't remember exactly. I'm just getting my bird book out to check the size of it, but they're very, very small little birds. So there's actually a couple of birds that are smaller than these bee-eaters. Even the little wax bills that you often see, they are smaller than them. So there are quite a few. So this little bird here is the one I was talking about. Very, very small, called a grey penduline tit. And it is between 8 and 9 centimeters, which is only about that big, and weighs 6.5 grams. So that is the smallest bird we get here in southern Africa. These little bee-eaters, I'd say, at a guess, are probably in the region of about 12 centimeters or so. So good, that much bigger than some of the other birds. Very pretty though, aren't they? Well, I'm going to start the vehicle again, and we're carrying on through this area, and let's see what we can find. Hi, Mordecai, that's a very good question about these bee-eaters. Fly up and they grab, if they do catch bees, which they do a lot of the time, and they'll fly back to a perch.
Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about the technical issues. These things happen. The gremlins do attack, even on Friday afternoons. Tlalamba, I'm sure you could find a much more comfortable way to sleep. She's not bothered. She's quite happy being very close to her food. When we found her this morning, for those of you who recall, she was about 50 meters away, and hyena arrived and she chased the hyena and then jolted up the tree. The hyena has since moved on. I didn't get an ID. I don't know if any of you got any screenshots of it this morning. It's got some very mangy looking patches on the ears. The ears are clean, should I say, like there's no nicks or tears. And behind the ears, it's almost white. Hey, Craig, what did you say? Very white, eh? Well, they looked quite bad, like almost like some skin infection behind the ears. Shami, that's a great question with regards to flies bothering cats. There's a starling here who's just shouting. In the Masai Mara, you notice that some of the lions actually climb trees there, and the rationale is to avoid the flies. Don't know if it works. I mean, the name in itself, flies, indicates that these creatures can fly up. But it's a wonderful African proverb I heard recently. The lion is the king of the jungle, but even he has to hide from flies. So flies are a nuisance for all these animals, and the problem is that where that kill is in the tree, the stomach and the blood and the meat, flies are going to be attracted, and there's no real escape from it, in my honest opinion. Whether you go up or down, the flies are going to bother you still. Far less at this time of year than in the summer months. Summer months, flies are next level. But there are still flies around at the moment. But they're nowhere near as frustrating. You're right, Craigie. Can I move up there? Rosalind, it happens all the time. Craigie, maybe we can get this wonderful starling over here. Rosalind wants to know if leopards drop their food from the tree. It does happen, Rosalind. And if there is a hyena waiting, it gets snatched up. And we were talking about experience before. Inexperienced leopards lose a lot of their kills. Inexperienced leopards also catch prey too big to hoist. That old adage, bitten off a bit more than one can chew, is very relevant. And it's why you find Thandi has been very successful. And for the most part, you see her with small antelope, Steenbok, Deka, and young Impala. James got her. Oh, Craigie, she's moving. Sorry to mess with you there. That wonderful Birchall starling on the floor there. But Talamba's moving, everybody. So James saw her a year and a half ago, somewhere around there, kill a sub-adult male Nyala. And that Nyala was way too big for her. I think she managed to feed on it for an evening, and it was gone in the morning. The hyenas stole it. So, there's a lot of energy required in taking down an animal. And if the animal is bigger and stronger than you, a leopard, it very likely could hurt you. And if you're not able to hoist it then, the potential loss of energy that you have given for the attack, the struggle, the kill, the takedown, if you can't hoist it, you can't benefit from it over days to come. So leopards do drop. They learn how to access and put meat in the tree. And when they do lose it, well, they seem to sulk for about a moment or two, but then they get on with life. Another important lesson for all of us. Okay, well, she's getting a little bit more active. We might get some feeding this afternoon. We'll just have to wait and see.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Yes, welcome back to me. I'm still right over here at Djuma Private Game Reserve. So we just have got a head of Batula of Impalas right over there, grazing. Some are browsing as well. As the head of Batula, they also been defeated from the head. So the one who wins, he have keep all the female one to make sure that they are on safety, trying to push them one way to follow this head of Batula. The Batula head are the one who always in front to see if is there any predator. So that other one together with the female one, keep on following them. So some are grooming. You can see I also have got to just move. There was someone who also have got some birds. Those birds are called oxpecker. Those birds are playing a very, very, very important role through to all animals that can manage to attack by the ticks. No matter the impala, all the predators they can win, but there are plenty more than the other animals. That means if you fail to see one impala, it tells me that you've never been in safari. So this one, it's just young ones. They have got a year complete. Trevor, the biggest horn on impala is that one. You can see that is the fully grown one. I'm not sure about how many centimeters, but is almost more than 50 centimeters. That is the biggest I have ever seen. That is 50 centimeters, almost half a meter. But mostly they are less than that one, so they use those horns for fighting. The female one doesn't have horns. So the one who have got the bigger horns, it's easy for them to win. So as you see them, they're also wearing some coat. It's a little bit chilly where we are. So as they're moving a little bit far away, we will move down to the dam where maybe we can get some birds and a water hole. We're going to stay a little bit on a dam if something comes on.
Well, good luck, Raymond. Go and find those birds. Well, our little Tlalamba, everybody's decided it's time to eat. So we'll watch her for a while eating. So our hyena friend has arrived back, but we'll stay with the leopard for now because I think we'll be able to get hyena in camera soon. Quite excited with the little bits of fur that are dropping down on the ground from Tlalamba's actions of plucking. I'm going to allow you to just listen. Terribly sorry if these scenes and sounds are a bit much for you to stomach, everybody, but this is a wild leopard feeding on a wild impala up a beautiful tambuti tree, and it's all about the circle of life. The leopard is using its very well designed jaws for crunching the bone, and on such a young impala it's very likely that she'll be able to eat a huge amount of the body, including many of the bones. We'll have to see though. Hyena is hoping she drops some of them for it. So I know these scenes are not for everybody. Liz, isn't this incredible? Okay, I'm going to duck down here and see if any of you can identify this hyena for us. It's not one that I can tell you offhand I know. Very sort of white patches on the back of the ears. You can see that. Spot button is nothing very well known to me. And anything that's falling, it is lapping up. So there we go. Those of you out there who know these hyenas well, please send through an ID for me if you've got it. And there, that should be more than enough for an identification. Let's go back up to our feeding leopard, and I'm going to once again just allow you to just witness, listen, take it all in. President Lurch, you want to know about where the leopards start eating, and I suppose it just depends on what they're feeding on, but most of the time you'll notice that a leopard starts on the rump of the animal, not necessarily the legs, but on the backside. But then it can also start opening the stomach and getting rid of the guts and maybe feeding on some internal organs. It all really depends on the animal and the size of it. But it is something you commonly see, them starting at the backside. Those very powerful muscles loaded with meat. But right now it's going for a little bit of armpit. Getting a bit stuck there, Tlalamba. Being very aware after she's eating if anyone's going to visit. Rosie, in general it's the hindquarters of impala, but they don't seem to be too picky. I don't know. I mean, why would they start somewhere? Is that the best piece? I know myself, when I eat a meal, I normally leave my favorites for the end. So it's really hard to say what they enjoy the most, but they will eat pretty much most of the impala, and no doubt many of the internal organs are well favoured and well enjoyed. Craigie, in your time, you've noticed them feeding a lot as normally the hindquarters, right? Stomach, opening the gut up. Very hard, Rosie. I mean, I don't know if any of you out there, it's one of the things that I always had small problems with my brother, is I'd always save my favourite bits for the end. And my mom used to have the same story. Save the favourite little piece or snack for the end of your meal, and then that's the last flavour you want. And then someone would just snatch it off your plate. See that technique there, everybody, of her holding it with her foot. Now, as the impala loses more and more rigidity, so as she's eating, breaking through bone and sinew, the body of the impala starts getting more and more limp, and it can get quite slippery. And right now, that hyena is on the floor, and if she drops it, it's gone. That hyena will snatch that entire impala and run for its life. So we talked earlier about how they learn how to eat in a tree. They got to learn how to eat quite high up, and then holding on to the body as they move it. It's like if you're cutting something on a breadboard, you've got to hold it with your hand, otherwise it moves. So first of all, getting the head. So male impalas are a lot easier than females because the horns can get caught It offers an enormous amount of anchorage. But you'll often find that as the animal starts to lose more and more body structure, it starts slipping more and more, and the leopard then has to reposition. And that takes a fair amount of skill and aerial dexterity. I'm wondering, Bex, if we've received any identifications on our very sad and lonely hyena. Is this not June? I wonder if this isn't June. June's had her ears mashed, hasn't she? I haven't seen her since I've been back. It's not one of the females that I know very well. But anyway, someone will be watching and someone will identify it. I take a photograph, post it on the universe. And, we're going to stay here with Tlalamba for a little while longer.
So we have come close to Leopard Dam, and Gert and I were having a good old conversation about, I can't remember what, traffic or something. And all of a sudden, we just heard these impalas making a heck of a lot of noise, alarm calling, snorting, making all sorts of crazy sounds. So we rushed over here to have a look, and they've calmed right down, but they still look quite alert. You see how they're looking behind us. I wonder if we had just seen tracks of a lioness, a single lioness, the skittish one that we've been seeing around this area every now and then. I wonder if they spotted her moving in this drainage line. And we just stopped here to see if any other alarm calls give us indication as to where this predator might be. But you can see these impalas focusing their ears to the left here towards this drainage line. Very, very alert, very nervous, a lot of tension. They've definitely seen something. And we saw other impalas close to the drainage line which didn't look alarmed. So wondering if maybe this, whatever predator it is sneaking around here. It's very exciting. So that's what I love about the bush. You never know what's going to happen. You can hear birds maybe in the background. There's a crested francolin also just calling, not an alarm call, but just calling. Oh, there's a dwarf mongoose that just ran right by the feet. Oh, there's another one. Right by the feet of those impalas. That's very cute. Oh, the wind has just picked up not long ago. And I wonder if it's putting all these animals on edge now as well. They've seen or heard something, and now the wind is bothering their senses, and now they're nervous. I wonder. Potato is asking why impalas are so common. Well, Potato, impalas are common because they have an incredibly successful breeding strategy. You can see potato, impala. You can see the impala, potato, whilst they are walking together like this. There's a lot of females. All these ones without horns are females, and they bunch together in these big herds. And there's one ram who'll mate with them, and they'll all give birth around the same time. And now they live on relatively open areas, and with all these eyes and ears, and the fact that they all give birth at the same time, means that they have more chance to survive. If they all gave birth in drips and drabs, one by one, you might find that they get picked off by the predators. So it's a very successful strategy. So when people say impala are so common, and a lot of people start to not find them very exciting anymore, what you must remember is that they are the most successful antelope, which means they're invariably the best. That one looks like it's actually survived maybe an attack before. And there's all these dwarf mongoose that are just coming close to their den site as well. So remember, it's going to get cold tonight, so all these mongoose are not nocturnal. They will go into this termite mound, this abandoned termite mound at night, to stay nice and warm. And there's that impala, which has got a bit of a scratch on its side, maybe surviving an attack from a leopard. Very, very cool. I wonder if maybe it's quite nice having all these mongoose around, because mongoose eyes are also very sharp. They're quite short, but maybe they could spot something as well. sneaking up. Oh, curious impala. I've seen once before mongoose actually grooming. I think they were grooming. No, they weren't grooming. They were just feeding around the feet of the impala. So they often work together. Remember, as impalas walk through the grass, they'll disturb things, and the mongoose won't. But there are two mongoose grooming each other. See at the back there? Very important for social bonding. Got to keep each other clean, and the more you clean someone, the more they're likely to help you out later. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. That kind of thing. Oh, the impala is still staring down straight towards us, straight past us into this drainage line. We're both just checking every now and again what might be moving behind us. There's definitely something going on here. Gary is asking if impalas can be tamed. Gary, absolutely they can. I'll tell you a story. I used to live in Cape Town on a farm, and on this farm they actually had an impala and a couple of springbok that they were raising. I'm not sure how they managed to get onto this farm, but they were very relaxed. I mean, you could walk right next to them, you could scratch them on the chin. It was very cute. Of course, those ones might have been from a rescue or something like that. I don't know. But it was really cool watching the impalas play with the dogs. The dogs would run around, and the impalas would chase, or the impala would chase after them, the springbok as well. It was a lovely thing. So they can be tamed, like most animals. See what that impala was doing there, licking its lips like that? Do you see that? So now I've heard a theory that when they lick their lips often, they're also quite nervous. So you'll see impalas licking their lips often if it's males and they're rutting, fighting with each other. You'll see them constantly flicking their lips and licking their lips. This might be something to do with the special organ they have in their nose, or in the roof of their mouth. That's called the organ of Jacobson, or the vemeronasal organ. And they lick the air, and then they flick it onto that organ there, that little pit on the roof of their mouth, and they're able to gather a little bit more information. So maybe if they catch a little scent on the wind and they use their tongue, it might just help them to know what it is that's caught their attention. Very, very interesting. So we're going to wait around here and see what happens and listen for any more alarm calls.
Welcome back to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, and we have found a very, very big elephant bull. Seems like he's just off by himself. I've been listening for the last minute or two. I can't seem to hear any others, but have a look at the size of him. Really big tusks, really big strong trunk. Beautiful. I'm sure the one thing that's really standing out for you is that quite red color all over his face and onto his back. Now this area that we're in, the soil has got a very high iron content, which gives it a very red color, almost like a rusty color. And I think this elephant has been having a dust bath. So I think he's been picking up dust off of the ground and throwing it back up onto his head and onto his back, and it's given him a very, very interesting coloration, hasn't it? Roshni, he is really big, and it's just always so special to watch big old elephant bulls like this. Just to spend a bit of time with them and just see what they get up to. I find it so fascinating that they're always the most relaxed animals. Elephant bulls are just always so super relaxed. They just walk around, they never run like crazy like a female. Well, sometimes they do, I suppose, but not when they're just like this. He's just happy feeding. See, he's picking up all sorts of different small little shrubs off of the floor. Can't see exactly what it is because after the rain my binoculars are all full of full of water and rain. But he's picking up all sorts of little shrubs off the ground, it looks like. Oh, I see what that is. That's actually what he's eating there. It's quite a young one, but it looks like a plant that's called an elephant's pudding. Well, that's a Not really the name of it, but that's what a lot of people call it. It's actually called a bushveld grape. It's all over the place. I'll try and find some when we leave here. I'll try and find some and show you. But it's got these thick, juicy leaves, lots of moisture inside. Must be quite nutritious as well. Really beautiful. It's a quiet afternoon here. What I want to show you just up ahead is look at the color of the sky. So that's obviously looking directly west. And that's where the sun is going down. But have a look at that beautiful color. And quite a big herd of wildebeest, if you can see that as well. But the bottom of the clouds is starting to pick up that kind of pink orange color from the sun. I think it's going to be a beautiful sunset. This elephant's obviously found a good patch where there's some nice little bushes there for him to eat, because he's still very happily just digging away and eating. Look at that color, that red color. He is big. An elephant bull like this, if you have a look just above his eyes on his head, it's quite sunken in. So this must be quite a nice big old elephant bull. I'd say probably in the region of in his 30s or maybe even 40s. But that red color just gives him such a different look. So strange. Yeah, that's a good question. Out here, probably lions. I would say no. Actually, no. I lie. He isn't. He'll even chase lions away. I suppose he's not really scared of anything. People say they are scared of mice. I have no idea how true that is. I've never seen them run away from a mouse, but it could be. And then that would probably be the animal that he's most scared of. Anyway, I think we're going to spend a little bit more time with this little elephant here, myself and Marcel, and we'll let you carry on and see what else everyone else has found today.
Thank you to be with me again. Indeed, we are really in front of us. We have got the buffalo. While to come here, we're just trying to relocate that side. As we said, we're going to try to take the boundary to check if is there anything comes in our boundary. Pass through to the dam, what's called Treehouse Waterhole. We didn't get anything just so interesting until we arrived right over here. It is something interesting, which is the bachelor head of buffalo. It's very good today. We have got a head of elephant, which is all males. We also had a head of impala as well, males. Now we got a little bit head of buffalo, also males. So it's a time for the males to be separated for the women or for the female one, because they need a chance to think who's going to win, who's going to protect, who's going to take over to my trophy. So no matter the buffalo doesn't have any territory, they're freelander. They can walk over through. So same as the elephant. So those animals, they believe themselves that they can protect or to win any time. So the buffalo, they do have a predator, not the same as elephant. So you can see now it's a time for them to come and drink. Over there, some also have got some nest on top of that buffalo. That's a weaver nest, a musk weaver, the beautiful bird. And the call for those birds, it's so nice that if you are very close over here, you can evenly take a song which you need it and you give it to them. You will hear that song exactly as it is on your mind. The way they're singing, it will be the same song through to your mind. So for them to put their nest over there on the tree in between the water, it's a part of protection. They want to protect for themselves as they believe that their chicks, once it's ready, they will fly off. And if someone come to close over there, he will get water before get them. Evenly the snake, it's not easy that they can climb over there because they will be wet, they will be sliding. If it is very wet, they will sliding until they need to get a grass or a sand where it can manage to dry up. But over there it will be sliding to climb on top of the tree. It's very rare to find the snake inside the tree, in between the water. So these, we call them the buffalo as the Dagga boys. The reason we call them Dagga boys, because most of the time they like to roll themselves on the mud. Dagga means mud. And boys, as it is a male. So that's why we call them Dagga boys. They do separate for themselves through to the head. They like the area where they can manage to graze and to come back to get water. They don't like to walk long distance. Yes, Anushka, the male buffalo can be alone as he's getting old. And it's not nice for himself to be alone. His protection is getting very, very low. He needs at least to have a protection together with the other one. So they do being alone, and it's for himself, it's in danger. And evenly the lion, once they find him alone, they take an advantage that they're going to win because he's alone, doesn't have any protection. So, that's nice. They're playing. They are not really fighting, but they're playing. That who's going to win at the end. And sort of like a training. We're gonna wait a little bit over here to see if there's still some still coming, if they can be together, all of them, right over here.
Okay, love. So this is now I'm sort of starting to think this, like figure this nest thing out, because the literature, and there's not a whole amount available, is saying this, that when the female is incubating, he spends most of his time at the nest on guard against predators. And if he sees something coming along that he doesn't like, he'll make a normal duck hissing noise. Some of you may have heard ducks hissing, which warns the female there's danger. Not that she can do much about it, unless, I guess, get out the nest and fly off. But the fact that we're now doing this repeatedly and not seeing him here, and even when we're not here, we go past the dam often, and old Sheldon is just sitting there day in and day out. He flies in here occasionally and flies out, but we haven't seen him. But he's certainly not spending any appreciable amount of time. So either the literature's wrong, well, probably might be, unlikely though, or she's actually only busy laying the eggs now. And remember I said she could lay up to 15, 16 eggs. I don't think it'll be that many in this environment, probably less, but you never know. So if she's starting to lay now, only once she's finished laying and she starts incubating, that's when we're going to start seeing Sheldon. But this is going to be easy now, because now we know where the nest is. We know that they're definitely using it. They're coming and going even while we're here, so that we are not having any impact on them. And we also, importantly, know which water hole Sheldon is using. And that means that the moment he disappears, well, he's either been eaten by someone, which also I don't think, or then we can come keep tabs on this nest, because then we know, okay, incubation is starting to take place now. And we could be in a really, really good position to get some incredibly valuable data on these birds. So I'm super excited about this now. This is actually, and that's the fun, when you start figuring animals out, when you start figuring nature out, and we never will have it figured out. I think, that we'll be kidding ourselves if we think we'll ever have it figured out. But at least that we're getting closer to seeing what's actually going on with this pair of shelducks, and it's super, super cool and super exciting.
Well, thanks, Dylan. Bex, can you tell me how long Dylan has been staking out that shelduck nest? Very interesting to know how much effort has gone in. A little hide they built around waiting. Super interested. 72 hours. That's a lot of time. 24 hours. Well, Chandra and Dylan, both of them, I haven't met Dylan, but he seems like a very humorous chap. And I know Chandra very, very well. He's got energy for days for those sort of things. Anyway, everybody, Oh, Davy is out there, my man. Davy Sito is in the Tsala Kalahari. I'm sure he's enjoying his wonderful first stint in that part of the world. So, everybody, we're with the princess, and she's been eating non-stop since you were last with us. Hyena picked up a scrap or two and ran off a moment ago in the direction we heard those alarm calls earlier. So, must have heard something we didn't know about. Maybe there was some other confusion or some other altercation. Maybe a leopard did make a kill further up we didn't hear. But without hearing anything further, we're going to stay here with the wild-eyed Tlalamba as she moves quite deliberately along the knee joint of this impala. And yes, they do pluck the majority of the fur, not all of it. You'll often see them starting by doing that, and they pluck it with the front of their teeth and just let it fall to the floor. But it takes a lot of time to pluck the entire animal. They will actually eat an enormous amount of the skin, the bone, the meat. There'll be a lot of fur in the diet as well. Excuse me. With other people in the sati, you might have seen a flash. It's okay, everybody. Look at that belly. You wouldn't think there is any more space, would you? She's got the feeling someone's going to come and pay her a visit shortly, so she's gorging herself. It's a little bit of femur there. Something. She's definitely going to need a toothpick after that. Monash Hill shear, where our molars are. Leopards have got very, very sharp teeth, which are used for cutting. It's one of the defining characteristics of a carnivore. And the field of view of where she is sitting is quite narrow. So you might hear some camera snaps. We are right next to this other vehicle. What is wrong, my girl? What have you spotted? She's just going, oh, I need a look at the sunset. We're going to stay with her. No sunset for you today, I'm afraid. Hello, Eva. That's a great question. The leopard teeth are not as compacted as ours. There's a lot more gaps to allow for the teeth to cut. Obviously, the front of the teeth have got the big canines. Oh, what's going on, my girl? Got the big canines. And on the side, the teeth are nicely ridged, but not compacted together. But an old leopard is a 16, 17-year-old leopard, so the teeth generally will last that amount of time. There we go. You can actually see the gaps. See how the canines work together. Those are the killing teeth. And so 16 years, I don't think there's enough time for them to rot. They can break. I've seen Tundi, one of her canines is either broken or worn down. It's how you age dogs. Cats normally by the wear and tear of the teeth. Lots of damage, crunching bones. But I've never seen anybody's rot or fall out. It's all about eating sweets, isn't it? That's what my granny used to tell me anyway.
We'll meet you somewhere.
With us, they're going to be moving out. Cheers, guys. There's that time with the sun setting. Most people start getting a little bit of a thirst. And now, once again, we find ourselves alone with our beautiful feline. You see how well she's got that animal wedged into that branch there. Very, very well wedged. I don't think it's going anywhere.
So we decided to come back down into the riverbed where we've got these lions to enjoy the sunset, and we've got these beautiful colors catching the clouds. The sun has already gone down our horizon. But one of the more entertaining things that we've been watching this afternoon is a small group of spur fowls who have been very courageously navigating their way through this pride of lions to get to the water. And they've literally walked past 12 lions without the lions reacting at all. They've had something to drink, and they are on their way back. And so they'll literally walk within 1.5 meters to 2 meters. There's one of the lions, and the lions aren't really even watching them. So that one in the front is the biggest one. That's the mother with the 4 youngs. And look how close they are. It's almost like stepping over the tail. Well done. They did such a good job there. That is pretty special. I mean, and those lions didn't really react. I'm sure those spur fowls would have been very nervous of them. But they obviously didn't worry too much about them. With the lions, I mean, this morning, you can still see the cubs on the left-hand side. They've got those big round bellies. But the adults seem to have digested their food quite a lot more. I mean, that one on the right-hand side isn't nearly as full as she was this morning. There's a yawn from one of the youngsters over there. So the only sign of movement that we've seen this afternoon is the sub-adult cubs, the ones in frame, get up, walk, go to the loo, and then they come back and join the cat pile. Sure. With almost no sign whatsoever. She's just gotten up now. Let's see what happens. It doesn't look like she's in the mood to move too far. Yeah, see, she's scratching around. It's time to go to the loo for her. And thankfully, we've chosen correctly. The wind is in exactly the right place. So we're not getting any of the scents. Yeah, changed her mind. She's lying down. Oh, she's a beautiful lioness. See, also, I mean, the temperature's starting to drop, but she's still panting very, very heavily. And I think if you were watching this morning, this is the lioness that spotted that male coming in from a distance. And the way that I can tell is, I mean, she's got... I thought that was a yawn coming. But she's got a very, very clean face. So she doesn't have any scarring whatsoever, and very, very distinct white... Look at... Look what that white male's doing. He literally walked over to his auntie and is now doing his business right next to her.
Yes, indeed. It is very nice to have such something special that is not very often to see them. The lions doing his job. It is something interesting to make everyone to be happy to see how life it is. So right here, we just miss the two buffalo, but I will move soon. So we still have got the roller, which is also part of hunting, whatever as it is. The buffalo, he was expecting this roller to call the lilac-breasted roller. He was expecting that the buffalo can help to get something. Those flies can fly off. Oh, nice one. Let me roll a little bit to reposition for those roller as well as the buffalo. You can tell me to stop. Okay. Yes, those Daga boys, they are still right over here. They're trying to move a little bit slowly that side. If you look at the head, that can identify for the male and the female. The male one, the head is very, very strong. And that bone, it's a hard bone. The bullet won't penetrate on that bone. It's a very, very hard bone. So that's why on hunting, this is the most dangerous animal to hunt. You need to aim where you're going to hit him. So you overcome cross about this one if it's alone. Oh, hey, doesn't give a warning. Immediately, so you come straight with this head. Can hit you one time, break all your ribs. Because it is a fully bone, hard bone. have a sound, if you can hear how they are grazing. Harriet, that's a good question. The buffalo, they're only eating grass. They don't have exactly the favorite through to the grass. They do eat as much as it is, but mostly they like the green one, which still have got moisture. So it is almost, they go for the green grass. That's why mostly they go through to the stream or to the river where they can manage to get something, but not really to go to the reeds, because some other rivers have got reeds. I'm going to move a little bit that side. Maybe we can get something good. The buffalo is already crossed to another area.
So after that male went and did his business right next to his auntie, he moved away and went flat again. And he was, I guess, one of the fittest lions, and look how much that stomach has started to shrink. So they're still very, very full, but by tomorrow morning they're probably going to look like normal lions, I guess. We have been hearing some hyenas calling in the background, and that did get one of the young cubs' heads up and looking, and she's the only one that's got a head up at the moment. The rest of them are all really, really fast asleep. So that's her. So she is the sister of the white lion that's missing at the moment. I was hoping that by this time, and they might have been a little bit more active, and they might have been playing around with one another, but it seems like they've just really enjoyed today. And I'm sure as it's starting to get cool, the sun has probably warmed up the sand a little bit, and they're just enjoying the warmth of the sand before they start their long night. And there's that one, I think it's a young male who's sitting right at the water's edge. And there's been quite a few birds that have come down and attempted to drink, but they weren't nearly as brave as some of the spur fowls that we saw crossing the path of the lions. And so there's been about a group of 20 doves that have flown down. They landed on the sand, saw those lions, and they've taken off again. So they might not get the opportunity to drink this evening. It'll be interesting. So let's see if he decides to get up and move from here. I wonder how quick it will take for some of these birds to swoop down and grab a quick drink before the day ends. So he's teasing all of these birds. It looks like he is going to get up, but he could also just flop back down again.
Okay, so this is the shelduck female. She's just come out the nest to start feeding close by her. I know she's a lot smaller than you think they are. But look how beautiful this duck is. No, I'm just kidding. This is a fawn-coloured lark. A fawn-coloured lark. And that's just crossed our path foraging. There was also a jackal that came trotting past just now. So this little blind is working really well. But while we're on this lark, I just wanted to say, very, very briefly, a big thank you to Jeandre. Jeandre has pulled a quick one on us. He decided he's not going to come out on the drive this afternoon. It was his last day. We are 2 days shy of 9 weeks of filming with Jeandre, and he has done, and I think everyone would agree, an absolutely phenomenal job, and he's really tolerated my eccentricities of going after some weird little things, and he's really done it. And because of his love for birds, and I just want to tell you, Jeandre doesn't like birds, except not even chicken. But anyway, so what I've done, I've taken the liberty of getting him a bird book, but not just a bird book. I'm not going to be responsible for this myself. You will notice I have made all of you complicit in this. So there you go, from all the Wild Earth viewers as well. So we're all in this together. So I will, because I was hoping he was going to be with us this afternoon's draft, so I could hand it to him on behalf of everyone. But I will give it to him tonight. So I'm sure he'll be very appreciative of his new bird book. But yeah, so I think this duck's not going to come out now. Well, I think the male's going to spend the night now at the dam. The female's gone down. So yeah, but at least we know it's. Oh my goodness! I hope that wasn't a real question, because someone just said, I hope there's nothing with a 9-week gestation, or is there anything with a 9-week gestation that'll remind me of Jeandre and my anniversary? Oh, please, I hope not. Do not come up with any creature that has a 9-week gestation, because I think I will crawl into an aardvark hole like the duck. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, it's been a good time. But old Davi's here, and I think he's going to do absolute justice to this gorgeous ecosystem that we're in, and it's going to be another amazing 9 weeks. I know it. We've got some good stuff lined up that I'm going to try to show you. Whether I get it right is a completely different story, but at least I have things lined up, and it's going to be fun if nothing else. So please, yeah, stay with us on this journey, and let's see where it takes us. Yeah, what another tough day in Africa. Beautiful day out here in the Kalahari. And not a duck to be seen. They've all ducked down the hole. Down. Oh, we still laugh. Okay. Yeah.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Well, thanks, Dylan. At least all your ducks are in a row. They might not be in the nest, but they're in the row, it seems. No doubt you are missing your chommy. Old Jeandre, those of you out there who don't know what I mean by chommy, it's a nice South African word of saying your friend. And here we are in infrared with the princess. Has not stopped eating, everybody, since you were with us. Amazing how much meat they can eat in a sitting. Franklin's in the distance closing down for the night. bone crunching sounds. I'm sure you can still pick that up on the ambient mic. As I said earlier, that being such a young impala, most of the bones are going to be quite weak. It's only had 9-10 months of growth. All our impala are born in middle to late November. And this is a boy from last season. A little bit of stomach hanging there at the bottom left, that could fall out. If it does, our little hyena friend is going to be very well and truly satisfied. You can see it's a bit of intestine, in fact. You might hear some voices, everyone. We are in the sighting. Another vehicle has joined us. It's getting to that time of night when a couple other vehicles might want to come and have a look. So we might make some space. We have been here a very long time. Gone from very sleepy Tlalamba to a feasting cat. We've been really hoping and anticipating for someone else to materialize, someone to have been the cause of those alarm calls. And at the rate at which she's feeding, it makes me feel as if she's expecting someone. She didn't invite Dad for dinner, but he has a tendency to arrive. If you're wondering how I was able to tell it's a young male impala, you can see by the small stubs of horns on the head. That is a yearling. They started to twist slightly after the first year and continue as they get older.
So these lions that are in frame at the moment have got absolutely no sign of moving, but there's one that's looking like it might get active very soon. And so we'll pan across to it and you can, that one right up ahead. What do you think the chances are of this lion moving in the next 15 minutes? That looks probably like the most comfortable lion I think I've ever seen. Fat and full-bellied, just enjoying this evening light. So Anupa, some of the reasons why they sleep with their legs up has got largely to do with how full their stomachs are. Sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable, so they'll have to stick their leg out to the side. But on a hot day, when they're feeling quite warm, they'll lift up their legs and expose their inner thighs. And because the inner thighs are quite sensitive with a little bit of fur, it will just catch the wind a little bit more and help them cool down. So that's the perfect example there. So if the wind is coming basically from in front of us towards us, it will be catching her stomach and that inner thigh, and it might just help her cool down a little bit more. So that's one of the ways that they do that. And then they also, if they need to, they'll pant quite heavily. But at this time of year, there's no real need for them to escape the heat. It's not too hot. I mean, they've been in pretty much exactly the same spot the whole day. If it was a summertime, right up until now, we would probably have only been seeing them in the bushes, hiding from the sun. But because it's been quite a mild day today, it's been okay. There's actually quite a cool little bird there, Owen, that's just landed, bottom right of the screen there. And so another species that's coming to drink. And this one's quite a specialist drinker. If it turns you might see a slight little ring to the eye, and it's called a double-banded sand grouse, and this is the only time of day that it will come down to drink, roughly around 15-20 minutes after sunset. And so I think it's also got quite a conundrum. It's landed wanting to drink, but it's realized that there's a whole pride of lions around it, and so it might waddle across to the water, but I think it'll be quite nervous in doing so. At least that one lion who was lying right at the water's edges moved off, and so a few birds have been brave enough to risk it, but some of them have come and seen these lions and they've turned and changed direction again. There we go. No, it's flying away. It took off. Oh, it's coming to land. It is drinking. No? It really wants to. It's circling around the waterhole. It's done this. This is the third time it's coming around. And it's still coming around, but it's gone now. And so maybe it's going to try and get towards another water source. There's one that's probably about 1.5 kilometers away from here. Albase, I've gone birding at night once or twice. I haven't done it regularly. It's not that productive. So we'll go out when we're looking for owls, or sometimes when we're trying to find some specific nightjars. You'll go out and have a look for them there. Otherwise, it's really tricky because most of the bird species in this area are active during the daytime. And so the best time to go birding is probably leaving the lodge just before it gets light. And then you go, probably I would come down into this river system and sit for the dawn chorus. Is probably the best time in this area to be birding. At nighttime, it's a lot harder to see the birds. They're less active. They're not calling. So it's not the most productive time, unless you're looking for the specialist nocturnals like owls, nightjars. We get bronze-winged coursers here on the odd occasion, which is quite a nice little bird to see. Some thick-knees, also nocturnal.
Yeah, you can.
But usually when we go out on a night safari, we're looking for some animals that are a lot more active at nighttime. So things like civets and maybe genets, aardvarks, some of the smaller cats, African wildcats, serval, caracal. Or we find lions who are looking for something to eat. And you would just try and stick with them for as long as we can to see if they might try and hunt. So we've still got a little bit of light. You can see, I mean, we've pretty much lost all of the sunlight. We've got, oh, there we go. Just popping out of infrared just so we can show you the colors. And the moon is just out of frame. It's slightly above the shot. We'll see if we can maybe get that in. There, and there's the moon. And so it's in its waxing phase, which means that it's going to get brighter and brighter, and hopefully within the next 2 weeks we might be looking at a full moon.
Yes, indeed, we are facing the moon. It looks like a boat in the sea. I remember when I'm still young, I said, "Oh, look at the moon. Oh, look at the moon. Mama, it's on the air. It looks like a boat in the sea." So that is the rest station which I still remember about it. We want to try a little bit forward to see if we can manage to get the zebras. Nancy, it is true they do hunt, but it's not really specific that only on a full moon. They do hunt anytime when they're hungry. It is more opportunity for them, evenly when it's full moon, that they can also evenly far to see far from the distance. But when they are hungry, evenly during the day, not in a moon only, they do hunt. So it is stomach cause them to work. So you can see those zebras, they're coming right over here because it's an open area, it's a part of protection. They are very good on eyesighting, but they also need a protection together with the wild beast and impalas. So they are not really relaxing because they haven't got their friends. They're also looking for their friends to be company. Wild beast very good on smelling, impala good on speed running, so they have to be together. And zebras also good on eyesighting. Just want to reposition again. Sorry, to keep the engine low. Yes, I'm trying to save them, but not to be closer because they look like as they are mobiling very fast, which is not more relaxing. So it seems as I'm interrupting them for their life, but now they are well relaxed. I don't want to disturb them. That's why I stop a little bit far, that they can look around and make sure that nothing else. Yes, I'm going to leave those zebras freely right over here, going home.
These lions are really just sleeping. I was hoping we might get a little bit more activity, but it doesn't seem like they're wanting to move at all. But it's been really nice to just sit here and watch the sunset with the moon in the background. It would almost be quite a good spot if the lions weren't here to maybe practice some yoga and do some stretching. But the nice thing is that the bird life is starting to come alive. So the nocturnal species that we were talking about, we can start to hear one or two little birds calling, and in the very distance I heard my favorite African scops owl calling behind us. Might be a little bit too far for us to hear on camera. Got that one just rolling over there. But the rest of them all fast asleep. You know, sometimes when they're full-bellied and content like this, they might decide to start marking their territory. And with the males around, if they decide to roar, you might find that the rest of the pride would join in and they'll all be calling around us. That's one of the sightings that I'm dying to see. I haven't seen this pride roaring before. One of the females in the group on the left has just picked up her head. And I suppose there's absolutely no need for them to be moving around, actually, because if animals wanted to, they would come and try and have something to drink, and an unlucky animal that walks into the riverbed might be surprised by these lions. Nushka, if there's another very relaxed lion, feet up in the air, and if there's something specifically wrong, or if a lion's been injured in the past, you might be able to pick up the injury. So whether it be a slightly elongated toe, or maybe a toe that points slightly differently, or a pad that might have, it might be shifted in a way because of the limp, you might be able to tell the difference, but it is very, very tough. Remember, sometimes when we're tracking these lions, it's 12 individuals that we find, or that we're looking for, and sometimes you follow and you walk through the bushes and you might see one track, and then you carry on going down the pathway, you might see another one. And so it becomes quite difficult to be able to identify an individual just by the tracks alone. You could narrow it down. I mean, within this pride, you've got a couple of smaller ones, so their tracks will be a lot smaller than the adults. But I mean, even that female that young cub is just going to go and nudge up against, her tracks can be confused for a male lion's tracks. They're so big sometimes. So it is very difficult. I guess, I mean, you might be able to tell what pride it is by looking at the amount of tracks that are around, or you would have a suspicion, but I don't think you would be able to give a definite answer. Another bird species I can hear in the distance calling is a barred owlet, also just starting its day. From this afternoon, Tabitha, I think one of my favorite things that I've enjoyed is watching the spurfowls, those Natal spurfowls, navigating through the pride of lions to go and get something to drink. I found that quite entertaining, because it would almost see they'll walk past one lion, they'll think the coast is clear, they'll start running towards the water, and then all of a sudden there'll be another lion right in their way. And so they'll have to stop and think of a route. And it almost seemed every single direction they turned, they just walked into a lion. But they were brave enough, and these lions weren't that interested, so I mean, they were quite happy to navigate straight through them towards the water. There's a western barn owl that I've just heard calling. So within this little spot, there have been 3 different owl species that we've called, or that we've heard calling. So these lions are taking the time to just take a nap, and I'm sure they'll be here for quite a while. And I'm glad that we've had some other action on the drive with those leopard. That leopard sounded like it was absolutely incredible. Tomorrow morning, we're handing you over to Nikki, and he always delivers on something special. So I'm sure the expectations should be quite nice and high. But enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.